AFC East division up for grabs at this point. Dolphins and Bills co-favorites, according to the odds makers, at plus 180, plus 170. It depends where you look. Jets now a little bit longer odds at plus 190 to plus 200 after that week 1 loss. But Bills, I think they surprised a lot of people. Michael, how do you feel about them now?
Well, Taron Johnson's not going to play on Thursday night. I'm surprised this line hasn't extended towards Miami. I thought Buffalo's defense wasn't good enough. I think Buffalo struggled to get the ball to Dalton Kincaid. All of the Dalton Kincaid fantasy owners were furious with Joe Brady for not throwing him the football. But I think, to me, the league realizes Kincaid's the number one receiver. I worry about Buffalo's defense. Now, Buffalo's a nickel defense. They need team speed to be able to keep up with Miami. Miami's situation is Achan's not healthy. Morissette might not be healthy. Both their running backs could miss because of the Thursday game. I'm surprised this line hasn't moved to Miami because I think Buffalo looks to me like a team with a great quarterback, Harrison, that is not necessarily a great team. I think they're below the cap hits. Drafting has hurt them. I like Buffalo only because of Josh Allen, Harrison.
Yeah, the interesting thing, and maybe why the line hasn't moved, is a lot of people, or at least last year, there were teams who found success against the Buffalo Bills in terms of rushing the ball. They were bottom 5 in terms of explosive rush rate allowed. However, when we go into Thursday Night Football, there's skepticism that you will see Raheem Mostert. There's skepticism that we'll see Devon Achane. So will Mike McDaniel able to construct the offense to take advantage of maybe that opportunity that is there in the rushing game? But you make a good point there, too. There's going to be concern with Taron Johnson being out for Buffalo in terms of the passing game for the Miami Dolphins. So maybe that is an advantage they can take. But generally, you can see an advantage as it pertains to running the ball against the Buffalo Bills. But on the other side, Michael, I think it's also interesting as well, because if you look at Josh Allen, you were talking about how important he is to this offense, as any quarterback is, but maybe him more than others, because this is an offense that has really struggled, or might struggle throughout the entirety of the year, to find somebody who can be that go-to target. We saw in week number 1, and I'm one of those fantasy football owners that had Dalton Kincaid. He only had 2 targets throughout the entirety of the game. It was Keon Coleman, the rookie wide receiver, who led the entire team in targets. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily a recipe for success over the long term of the season. And I'm going to be very interested to see, now that Jalen Ramsey could be in the lineup here for the Miami Dolphins, and maybe he takes out that outside wide receiver choice, where is Josh Allen going to go next? Because we know he wants to go to Dalton Kincaid. I think that why I couldn't put them in my Super Bowl circle, because there's so many questions about how they're going to attack on the offensive side of the ball. We know James Cook is going to be the bell cow, but on the exterior, we just don't know if we can rely on anybody else, and it's going to really potentially allow teams to really hone in on Kincaid, which is going to make Josh Allen have to perform like Superman to get to the playoffs, Michael.
Well, he's definitely got to be Superman. They're just not an overly talented team. They have a reputation, but through attrition, through the salary cap, through not drafting great, right? They're not a great team. Losing Matt Milano defensively hurts them. Losing Tyron Johnson as their nickel back hurts them tremendously. And going against Miami, who was very inconsistent in week 1, it makes it very challenging. And look, I don't want to go against Josh Allen, and I think way too much is being made of his wrist on his left hand. I think certainly he'll be fine. But to me, I think this team is going to have really tough times, A, winning on the road, because I don't think their defense is good enough, and B, being consistent, Grace, moving the football without great receivers on the outside. I think people are going to challenge them, especially if they have corners like Miami does with Ramsey, who wasn't 100% healthy but played last week, but he'll be better this week, especially in week 2 of the season.
Yeah, so I actually do have a play on this game, and I know the Bills wide receivers are a question, as is their secondary, but the line it opened Miami -1, so it has moved their direction, but now that we're getting a little more wiggle room, I'm going to take the Bills plus 2.5. First, looking at their defense, they held Arizona to the 7th lowest success rate in week 1, giving up just 4.5 yards a play, and they actually allowed 21 points, not the 28 that the final score shows, because they had that kickoff return touchdown. The offense, of course, they don't have the deep strike playbook, but they do have bigger wide receivers who can muscle their way for the ball and add yards after the catch. The whole point here is I want them to keep Tua off the field. And offensive coordinator Joe Brady looks like he's going to do just that. He ran the ball at the 4th highest rate in week 1. 57%. That's 10 points higher than they were running it last year at 46%. Then on the Dolphins side of the ball, Mike McDaniel and the Fins were trailing for a large part of that game, so it wasn't too balanced. They only handed the ball off on 38% of the snaps. I feel like that will reach an equilibrium in this game because they're more evenly matched here. But they also seem to have some problems on the interior of the offensive line. The Fins running backs averaged just 2.8 yards per carry. So I think this will be a slower paced game with both teams going heavier on the run. The weather is also projected to be 80 degrees with 80% humidity, which means it's going to be a feel-like temperature of 100 with some thunderstorms. So that favors running the ball as well. And I think if this game stays low scoring, that gives the Bills a better chance to win. So I'll take them plus the points here.
You know, I do have to wonder as well, and this is something that you can't really put into the betting analytics of this game, how much of this controversy or this attention that the Tyreek Hill arrest or the handcuffing had this past week, and how much of it can potentially play into a distraction or a rallying cry for this Miami Dolphins team going into Thursday Night Football.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.